Good morning, good morning. Welcome to a day, every day is a day. Every day's a moment, but good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good and God blessings. I'm Dr. Paul, and you listen to Vlogcast Week. And I normally have some questions for you and some answers for you, but I gotten some questions, and that was really good because I tell you, every time I do a podcast, I want you to reach out and I want you to say, hey, Dr. Paul, I listened to it and this is what I thought and this is what I got from it. Because this is all what we have is conversation. This is what we can do is talk about this. And I think that sometimes, can we get tired of talking? No, yeah. But my thing, even when I do Bridges Live, it's about getting you from here to there. And when I do Blackcast, it's about, tagging into something or touching something or just like, pulling the short hairs or something and saying, we need to pay attention to this, or can we pay attention to this? And what can we do about this? Because I think ultimately, if we don't understand what we're doing, I don't understand how we can turn it into an action. So if we don't understand, it will never turn into action. We can have opinions, but opinions aren't the same as understanding. We can have conversations. Conversations still not the same as understanding. Understanding, for me, and what it does, it means that you have an action of ideas. Not just ideas, but there's an action to it. Okay? Now, to bounce it off, someone says, hey, I was going to do this because it snowed, and I went and got a shovel because now I'm going to put it into action. So when things happen, and if you look at the shovel and the storms and snowstorms and rainstorms and whatever you have to do with all these different storms, and I know I want to give my blessings to people that's coming up to hurricane season. I know it has started, and with this warm weather throughout the country, I pray that everyone will be all safe and we don't have as many deaths. Because some things are just going to happen. And whether we want them to happen or not, they are going to happen. And there comes into my topic of what I want to talk about. Reparations. Reparations for blacks, for slavery, for the things they've been throughout the history, how they built the country, how we first started the Wall Street. We were the first, and the reason why, if most people don't know, the reason why they say we first started Wall Street is because we were the first marketable product on Wall Street. Yeah, slaves, down there in New York City, where the big bull is, right? So we were the first marketable product sold on Wall Street that made so much money, and of course the labor. I'm not going to get into. If you don't know anything about slavery, whatever. I'm not going to give you that civics lessons or social lessons or history lessons. But reparations, to make amends. But then we have education. So I don't know, and here's where I want to get to this. Education is not broken. I had this great conversation with some beautiful people just recently. And education has never been broken. It's been doing exactly what it's meant to do. It was to have a educated workforce. Let's get that right. An educated workforce so you can be efficient. Not for you to be a critical thinker. That is not the how education and why it was built. Because the classes of people that the states and countries and the world has had, the upper class was always going to be educated for to know so they're able to do. It's a different type of education that they were getting. Plato was teaching the leaders, children. He was Socrates, all those people that we hear about, and the years have passed. You always got the best teacher to teach the king and the queen's children. Didn't matter what country you're in, pick one. Pick one. You were going to get the best people who were the best people to teach your children in the upper class. They were being educated. We were being taught efficiency, anything outside of that. Everything we see, hear, feel, and touch in the universe belongs to the all. Right? That's what we know. That is what we should be, can be, would like to know that we can be living now. The infinite and the living presence that gives everything a purpose is what I believe understanding should be. It is the functions and the reasons. It is to raise your consciousness, right? That's what education is for me. That's why I believe in understanding. To raise your consciousness for all by seeking awareness and enlightenment. To have a purposeful life. To have a purposeful life. To acknowledge the reality around you and choose free will, choice, for you to choose how you live based on these realities of you raising your consciousness, the reality of you awakening yourself, the reality of awareness and enlightenment of your purpose in life. Do you hear what I'm saying? To be attuned with all things of your consciousness around you. Everything we see, everything we hear, everything we touch, everything we taste. The all. That's what education is. To raise your correspondence with the heavens and the earth. So when you talk about reparations, are you talking about education? Because you're never going to give money to something that has already happened because there's nothing to give to anymore. Because the systematic things has happened because of slavery, right? And in the doctrine that you have, that the country has proceeded in, has caused a systematic breakdown of the culture of people. That is not able to make amends. What you can do is to raise the consciousness of people and the awareness. See, the universe consists of several planes and realms. But if you're stuck in the lower realm of life, and you're stuck in the animal of life, and not the consciousness of living, you then can be given money and to be kept quiet, and you can be made amends to, pat you on the head and push you on the way. But if you want to look at reparations, you got to look at yourself as education. And if you don't look at yourself as being educated, not being taught efficiency, just because you're good at something what you do doesn't mean you're educated. Remember, the Brown versus the Board of Education was not about education, it was about equal education. The blacks wanted to have the opportunity to choose what to be taught. Now, the world in itself, education systematic is to have an efficient workforce. It was not for you to be developed into conflict resolution, emotional intelligence, consciousness of awareness. That's not what it was for. For you to read and write, so then the bosses can give you something via written word, not spoken word. The basically things of what you perceive in your head must always correspond to the reality that you live in, and if the things in your head is only a perception of not of your own consciousness, then it is what you're being told to do. Then you will always be enslaved in that matter. You will always be subjugated. Yeah? Do you hear me? You will always remain small. Reparations will not create largeness in your life. You can talk about it. You can be informed about it. You can have a great conversation about what has been, what systematically has been done, and what the turmoil has created. The prisons, the voting, the low-income housing, all these, the New Deals. I ain't giving you a little bit of a history lesson, a little bit. But the principle of vibration, how does it vibrate inside you? How does it vibrate inside you? Does it raise your consciousness to be educated? Do you understand what subjugation is? To understand what your imprisonment is? What your lack of vibration? Because if you lack vibration, it will not raise your awareness. These noises that is keeping you caught, stuck in you owe me mode. Stop thinking that what we have been taught and brought to as a people, global people, is done by accident. This is done on purpose. I emphatically believe this is purposeful. But until you develop your own purpose, right? Raise your consciousness, by seeking awareness, enlightenment of your own purpose in your own life. Have a purposeful thought, right? This is why the martial sciences have done so well, because we tack into what your purpose is inside your internal self to be your external movement. That's what the martial science is. That's why it touches on the health and the spiritual and the physical. That's why if you heard my other podcast about polarity and understand how this is manifesting inside your life. Otherwise, you don't understand how things are manifesting inside your life. You always be stuck in the life that you did not create. And you will be in a negative and a positive state and not even know why. There is movement in your life. You're either creating the movement or you're stuck in the movement that was created for you. How can reparations help you with that? The manifestations of these vibrations depend on the frequency you are developing, not the frequencies you are receiving, because then you become a transmitter of what is being transmitted to you. Those that vibrate at a higher and faster rate exist only in the topmost part of your plane. That's raising your awareness. So, I wanted to give you hey, this is a conversation about reparations and education. Where are you, what are you, and what are you going to do with it? If you're going to understand something, then you take action. If you just want to be talked to, then your frequency remains low. If you want to be subjugated and you be held inside the informational pen that's pinging you around like a pinball in a game, we can play the song, I'm a pinball wizard. Who's the wizard? Who's the ball? Who's the bumpers that's pushing you around? You can remain inside the game, and yet every time you fall into that hole, you'll just get put right back into the game and plunge it right back in and pinged around. And what you're going to look for is reparations and something that someone owes you. We can only free ourselves by freeing our minds, right? Nothing new heard, something very old said, so I say it again. I love you all, And you guys have a great day. This is Dr. Paul. You can always reach me on drpaul.holisticscience.com.